The zombie apocalypse has arrived, and while most people are terrified, one young man sees this event as an opportunity to fulfill his dream. The protagonist, a young man named Akira Tendo, has always been hardworking and polite. When he gets his first office job, he heads there with enthusiasm. Among his new colleagues, he notices an attractive girl named Otori, which only boosts his motivation. After work, the company employees often gather at a bar, and Tendo soon gets acquainted with his colleagues and his boss Kosaki. That very evening, the boss assigns him a ton of tasks, demanding that the young man stay working late into the night. Day after day, the same situation repeats. Tendo comes home completely exhausted, barely able to stand. Gradually, he starts feeling like he's literally living in the office, and the workload only increases. One evening, Tendo meets with his best friend Kencho at the bar and complains about his tough job, but their conversation ends in an argument. At the office, the girl Otori offers the worn-out Tendo a juice, but just minutes later, his boss scolds him again. Tendo realizes he doesn't have the courage to quit, as finding a new job in Japan is incredibly difficult, and this thought only deepens his despair. His days blend into monotonous routine, and one day he becomes so exhausted that he starts contemplating suicide. His home gradually turns into a real dump, but one morning, as he steps outside, he sees that his neighbor has turned into a zombie. In a panic, Tendo tries to run, but as he moves through the city, more and more undead begin to chase him. The city is engulfed in chaos. However, instead of fear, Tendo feels a sudden sense of relief. Today he doesn't have to go to work. For the first time in a long while, he feels true freedom, realizing that he hasn't had a day off in a whole year, and suddenly remembers Otori. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, a pregnant woman anxiously watches the news about zombies, and her husband tries to calm her down. Suddenly, Tendo, cheerful and energetic, peeks into their window and announces that he's going to the store, offering to bring them some groceries. Hopping onto his bike, Tendo rides through the crowd of zombies, who to his surprise run rather fast, forcing him to pedal harder. Arriving at Otori's house, he enters her apartment where everything is scattered around, but the girl is alive and looks like a normal person. However, Otori has guests. She points to a zombie in a bathrobe. To his horror, Tendo recognizes the company's chief director. Realizing that Otori is in danger, Tendo bravely charges at the zombie and rips off its wig, but the zombie director lands a powerful blow, sending Tendo flying into the wall. Unfazed, Tendo charges again, and they both fall to the floor. At this moment, Otori grabs the nearest object and hits the zombie on the head. In a rage, Otori scolds the zombie for never leaving his wife for her. It turns out that the director and Otori were lovers, and the situation spirals into a real drama. Soon it's revealed that the zombie director managed to bite Otori. Now she begins to turn into a zombie as well, and losing control, she lunges at Tendo. Grabbing a pillow, the young man desperately defends himself, then confesses to her that he loved her before fleeing her apartment. Returning late at night to his neighbors with the groceries, he realizes he's come too late, leaving Tendo deeply upset. Despite all these horrors, Tendo decides that he wants to keep living and not become another zombie victim. He sits down and makes a list of 100 things he has always dreamed of doing, starting a new chapter of his life. The second day of the zombie apocalypse begins. Tendo cleans up his house, getting rid of all the accumulated junk. Then he heads to the supermarket, where he stocks up on a wide variety of products. Despite being chased by zombie clerks, Tendo decides to change up his appearance a bit and dyes his hair in different colors. However, in the end, he goes back to his natural shade. Then, using paint, he draws a huge portrait of himself on one of the city's skyscrapers. But his adventures don't end there. Once again avoiding hungry zombies, Tendo decides to switch from his bicycle to a more powerful motorcycle. Evening falls and Tendo lights up the sky with colorful fireworks, illuminating the surroundings with bright lights. The next day, he organizes a barbecue right on the street, but soon realizes he's out of sauces and has to go back to the supermarket. In the store, a stranger in a helmet suddenly attacks him, swinging a stick. Realizing that it's not a zombie, the stranger removes the helmet, revealing a very attractive woman. Her name is Shizuka, and she's clearly no ordinary survivor. She seems to be a real monster hunter. Suddenly, they hear cries for help. Without hesitation, Tendo rushes toward the sound, with Shizuka following him. Together they save another person from the zombies, with the woman easily defeating the enemies, proving her hunter skills. Afterward, she rides off on her bicycle, and Tendo heads back home. Here he remembers his friend Kencho, with whom they once had a falling out. He decides to call him, and finds out that Kencho is trapped in a love hotel surrounded by zombies. Tendo can't leave his friend in trouble and sets out on a rescue mission. He races on his motorcycle, trying to avoid collisions with hordes of zombies. Arriving at the hotel by evening, Tendo realizes there are too many zombies and discovers they react to sound. He throws a speaker to the side, distracting the monsters. While the zombies rush toward the nose, Tendo breaks through. Moving like a professional athlete, he skillfully dodges attacks and carves a path to his friend. Tendo finds his friend Kensho, and together they finally make it to the rooftop, then head to the nearest bar and have a feast, celebrating their survival and escape. Kensho flips through Tendo's list of goals and admiringly declares that Tendo is a true hero. Inspired by his friend's words, Tendo adds another wish to his list: to become a superhero, like Superman or Spider-Man. Before they finish their meal, Kensho notices on the news that Tokyo is on the brink of a humanitarian disaster. Tendo suggests they head to the aquarium and get shark-proof diving suits, which zombies definitely wouldn't be able to bite through. But first, they need to stock up on food, so they decide to go to the nearest supermarket. On their way, they see a crowd of living people being attacked by zombies. Among them, Tendo spots Shizuka, who skillfully fights off the undead and takes shelter in the supermarket. Tendo and Kensho rush there, and a few more people manage to get in behind them, a taxi driver and his two passengers. Together, they decide the safest place to hide is the aquarium. Suddenly, the taxi driver notices a zombie bite wound on his hand. Meanwhile, his passengers decide to relax and start drinking strong alcohol. The guys join in, and soon the women begin flirting with Kensho. In the end, he leaves with the two women, leaving Tendo with Shizuka. At this point, she notices a scratch on Tendo's arm and bandages it. But behind them, the infected taxi driver, who has already turned into a zombie, suddenly appears and begins chasing them. Meanwhile, the passengers, unaware of what's happening, change into flight attendant costumes and continue entertaining Kensho. But suddenly the zombie taxi driver attacks them, first biting one then the other. A terrified Kensho manages to escape, with the zombie in pursuit. Tendo, without hesitation, once again comes to his friend's rescue, distracting the zombie with loud music, allowing them to escape safely. Meanwhile, Shizuka tries to escape the supermarket but is chased by the two zombie passengers. She bravely fights them off, while Tendo and Kensho set off fireworks to distract the other zombies. The three of them finally manage to escape the store, and they spot a van on the street. Fortunately, they find the keys inside, and without wasting time, they drive away from the infected streets. They head towards the aquarium, but decide to make a brief stop at some hot springs to relax with some sake after all the horrors they've endured. It's now the 7th day of the zombie apocalypse. Kensho decides to make a drastic change to his appearance and dyes his hair, becoming a blonde. Meanwhile, Tendo finds time to feed the stray dogs that have survived the chaos. Soon our heroes find a lake and, for the first time in their lives, decide to try surfing. Though their attempts look more like water yoga, it becomes another item Tendo checks off his bucket list. By the end of the day, they even manage to go hang gliding, enjoying rare moments of freedom amidst the raging zombie apocalypse. That evening, tired after a long day, they finally enjoy a meal of ramen and light sparklers, savoring the moment. However, their journey isn't over yet, and they continue heading towards the hot springs. Unfortunately, when they arrive, they find that the springs are already occupied by zombies, peacefully sitting by the water. Despite this, Tendo and his friends decide to sit at a safe distance from the zombies and enjoy their well-deserved rest. After the break, they nearly reach the aquarium, but on the way, their van skids and they crash. It turns out someone had scattered sharp spikes and nails on the road. When Tendo comes to, he hears the screams of his boss Kasugi. At first he thinks it's just a dream, but no, the boss leads him to the aquarium and shows him the local hideout. Inside, Tendo notices his neighbors, whom he had long thought dead, as well as some of his former colleagues. It turns out Kasugi has set up a new business here and turned the place into a fortress where he controls all the survivors. Kasugi demands that Tendo, Kensho and Shizuka join his team and work around the clock like everyone else. He shows Tendo the local security system, hungry zombies, that he uses to protect a hideout from looters and criminals. Kasugi insists that Tendo become his assistant. While Kensho, Shizuka and the other survivors eat the simplest of meals, Kasugi indulges in lavish dishes and Tendo is forced to work as his waiter. Tendo's former neighbor, noticing the injustice, decides to help Kensho escape. He suggests they steal any vehicle and get as far away as possible. However, at that moment, a zombie breaks into the aquarium and bites one of the workers. Panic ensues. The zombies that were being used as security break loose and cause total chaos. Kensho and Shizuka find Tendo and beg him to escape with them, but Tendo refuses, choosing to stay. Shizuka finds Tendo's list of unfinished tasks in their van. Returning to him, she insists he leave, warning him that if he stays, he will inevitably become a zombie victim. At this moment, Tendo begins to recall all the happy moments of his life, just as Kasugi arrogantly stomps on his list. This pushes Tendo to make an important decision. He shoves his boss, picks up his list from the ground, and declares that he quits. At that very moment, a horde of zombies bursts into the room, and everyone starts running in different directions. Tendo manages to save 2 of his former colleagues, and they hide together in one of the aquarium's sealed-off rooms. But this is only a temporary refuge. They find themselves in the part of the building where sharks are kept. Suddenly one of the sharks attacks, and to their horror, they realize it's no ordinary shark, it's a zombie shark with legs. In a panic, the people try to flee, but they are exhausted. Tendo realizes that Kasugi is missing, and despite everything that happened, decides to help his former boss. He puts on a shark-proof diving suit and rushes to Kasugi's aid. At that moment, the zombie shark attacks Tendo, but Kensho arrives just in time to help. Using a forklift, he rams the monster, saving his friend at the last second. Our hero Tendo once again sets off to rescue Kasugi, who has been surrounded by a horde of hungry zombies. The boss is hiding while the zombies try to get to Tendo, but fortunately he has his protective suit like a superhero. This helps him withstand the monster's attacks until Shizuka comes to his aid. She acts decisively, distracting the zombies with loud music. In her hands are loudspeakers, which she throws straight into the water. The zombies, attracted by the sound, rush into the trap. At that moment, Kensho appears, proudly announcing that the shark chasing him got stuck between the rocks and won't be able to eat anyone anymore. Everyone relaxes, celebrating their small victory. But suddenly the shark breaks through the rock and attacks Kasugi with renewed strength. Wasting no time, Tendo rushes into battle with the monster. Meanwhile, Shizuka grabs several batteries and assembles something like a conductor to electrocute the shark. Kensho, seeing her plan, grabs the device and tosses it to Tendo, explaining that he needs to press it against the shark's nose. Tendo completes the task, and the electric charge instantly passes through the monster. The zombie shark receives a powerful shock, and its body collapses helplessly to the ground. Surveying the battleground, Tendo quickly finds his friends and is relieved to see that they are all safe. After defeating the monster, all the aquarium residents gather and start packing food and supplies into vehicles, preparing for their next journey. Tendo, Kensho, and Shizuka also get into their van, ready to head out on new adventures. Tendo suggests to his friends that they extend his bucket list so that it becomes theirs too. After all, they will experience all the adventures together. And so this story comes to an end. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.